and that the level of entitlement is breathtaking. And it's no wonder why he failed initially, and it's no wonder why the coach got fired. And I would just tell him, just keep your mouth shut. You're going into the greatest league that there's ever been for the sport that we all love. You're going to have a chance one day to make $500 million because guys like me and guys before me all went on strike so you could actually make more money. So keep your pie hole shut and go out and play football and earn your keep and earn your respect.
What? Huh? Excuse me? Are you kidding, Boomer Esiason? All that bloviating, talking about Caleb being entitled and how he needs to shut his pie hole? Oh, no. Roll the intro. Welcome back to Bears Yard. This your boy Vipe. And a lot of Caleb Williams stuff came down yesterday, which led to those comments by Boomer Esiason, former NFL quarterback. So we need to set up a little bit of a backstory before I get into the Boomer Esiason stuff. So there's an ESPN columnist named Seth Wickersham, and he's coming out with a book. And I forget what the name of the book is at this point. I think it's American Kings, The Journey of the NFL Quarterback. Whatever it is, it's a book about the NFL quarterback. And he interviewed a bunch of NFL quarterbacks and their parents for this book. I think he talked to Caleb and Carl Williams. He talked to John Elway. He talked to the Mannings and different things like that. But there's a lot of excerpts from this book from Caleb and Carl Williams that made big time news yesterday. And it had people in Chicago and around the NFL feeling a certain type of way vis-a-vis Boomer Esiason. So let's just get into some of the stuff that was talked about in the book real quick, and then we'll get into the Boomer stuff. So it is important to note that these conversations that were had between Seth and whatever and Caleb and Carl happened before the draft last year, before Caleb Williams was drafted to the Chicago Bears. So, as Colin Cowherd rightfully reported last year before the draft, it had been confirmed that both Caleb Williams and Carl Williams had trepidations about Caleb being drafted by the Chicago Bears because of their history of ineptitude as it relates to developing quarterbacks. I mean, you just had Justin Fields get washed out. Mitch Trubisky got washed out. Jay Cutler was okay, but he didn't really do that much here. He was all right. But the Bears have a long history of mediocre quarterback play, and even people around the league know that. And if you're from Chicago, you definitely know about the Bears' ineptitude at the quarterback position. So because of that, Caleb Williams had trepidations. Carl Williams had trepidations, especially considering they were going into that season with Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron. And even before the draft, it appears that Caleb himself had questions about Shane Waldron. How little did we know at the time how right he would be. Oh my goodness. Before I go any further, if you're like me and you're happy with Caleb Williams as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, hit subscribe for more daily opinionated Bears talk. In these conversations that occurred in the book between Caleb, Carl, and Seth, or whatever that Seth sourced for the book, Carl Williams was trying to figure out how to manipulate the draft in such a way that Caleb Williams would not be drafted by the Chicago Bears. And some of the thoughts were maybe him playing in the UFL for a year so he could become an unrestricted free agent the next season. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. They talked about attacking the Chicago Bears publicly to make the situation untenable for the Bears and different things like that. But Ryan Poles, in the process, put his foot down. He was like, we are drafting you no matter what. And I think he ended up talking to Caleb Williams and convincing Caleb to take the 30 visit to Halland Hall. And after Caleb took that 30 visit to Halland Hall, he had a good feeling about the Chicago Bears. Apparently, his meeting with Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren went well, so well to the point that Caleb said, and quoted in the book, he said, I can do this for this team. I am going to be a Chicago Bear. So, I think it's very important to note that last quote. Caleb Williams, after the 30 visit, made up his mind, even with the trepidation that both he and his father shared, made up his mind that he was going to play for the Chicago Bears. And that was that. So, Caleb Williams comes into the Chicago Bears, and what happened. The Bears go 5-12. He gets sacked 68 times, which is second in NFL history. He loses his offensive coordinator. Actually, he went through 3 offensive coordinators in his rookie year, with his original one, Shane Waldron, being fired and then ultimately losing his head coach, Matt Eberflus, 2 weeks later. Not to mention there's this whole story about the Bears coaching staff not being willing to watch film review with Caleb Williams or not watching film with him, which is crazy. I see Emmanuel Acho out there talking about how he should have asked. Why would your rookie quarterback have to ask anybody to watch film? You literally get paid to develop him. That is on Matt Eberflus. That is on Shane Waldron. That is on Kerry Joseph and the rest of that staff that was in place at the time. It is their job to develop Caleb Williams, and they failed epically. And that's why they're not here anymore. But you want to put the onus on a rookie quarterback who's 21, 22 years old. Shut up, Acho. Calm down. Probably shouldn't have been that disrespectful, but this really got me going right now. But we get all that. And even in the midst of all of that turmoil that Caleb Williams faced there in his rookie year, he still somehow managed to put up over 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 62%. By all accounts, an amazing rookie year for most quarterbacks, but since he's the number 1 overall pick, there are higher expectations on him. But given all the turmoil that surrounded him and the instability of the coaching staff around him, I would say that he did a damn fine job in his rookie year. So this brings me back to Boomer Esiason and the comment that he made in my introduction about telling Caleb Williams to shut his pie hole and calling Caleb entitled. What are you talking about? He literally said that he chose to become a Chicago Bear, went out there knowing everything that he knew, all the trepidation that he had. He still put on that uniform each and every week and performed to the best of his ability and still had an amazing rookie season, given the fact that he was sacked 68 times, given the fact that Shane Waldron couldn't find his way out of a paper bag, given the fact that Matt Eberflus couldn't call a timeout if you paid him to. I mean, all of that stuff, and Caleb Williams still performed, but you want to come on some radio show and call him entitled and tell him to shut his pie hole? You know what, Boomer Esiason, I need you to keep Caleb's name out of your mouth. Don't say anything else about Caleb Williams unless you throw some respect on that man's name, because after everything that he's endured over his rookie season, that man deserves all our respect. I would argue that because of all this information that has come out about Caleb Williams, that in my opinion, he is one of the top 5 greatest sports athletes in the history of Chicago, period. Because he came into the city knowing what he knew with all the stuff that surrounded him in his rookie year and still found a way to perform. Unfortunately, the coaching staff was not up to the task and the season was what it was. But I'm not going to sit here and blame Caleb Williams for having trepidation when we all saw what we saw. I'm sorry. If you are making one of the biggest decisions of your life and you're trying to figure out where you want to work and you do your research and you figure out that a potential employer has a lot of red flags, would you not be concerned? I would hope that you would be concerned. Now, the NFL draft is a different beast because these players get drafted and they can't really predetermine their outcomes, although you got Eli and you got Arch Manning and different things like that. Even Boomer Esiason made a comment back in the day when he was in the draft process about how he would never play for the Indianapolis Colts because they used to be in Baltimore and he was loyal to Baltimore, and Baltimore moved out of that city and into Indianapolis. He was like, I would never play for the Colts. So just the audacity for him to come out here with this type of tone at Caleb Williams when he himself said that he would not play for a certain team is a level of blasphemy and hypocrisy that is just tone deaf on all the levels to me. Listen, fam, I know a lot of y'all have thoughts and opinions about the quotes that Caleb said in this book, right? But number one, he went through all of last season and was the good soldier. He didn't make any fuss. He didn't throw anybody under the bus. He went out there and did his job every week, even when he was getting sacked 68 times. He didn't throw his linemen under the bus. He didn't throw any coaches under the bus. Nothing of the sort. He was a model citizen. And now we have Ben Johnson here. And he has decided to be learning with and working under Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle has already talked about how Caleb Williams is putting in the extra hours this offseason to learn the offense and get better. Caleb Williams has done the best he can in the situation. And kudos to Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears for recognizing the garbage that they put him in and rectifying it and making it right. Now, it did take them a year, unfortunately, so that was a year off of his development, but still, in this situation, I would say it's better late than never. The Bears identified their mistakes. They fixed him. They brought in the best head coaching candidate for Caleb and the team. They brought in an amazing coaching staff behind him, and they brought him basically a brand new revamped offensive line. They got him more weapons, and now it's up to Caleb to go out there and perform. When people say that the most pressure is on Caleb this upcoming season, yeah, you're right. I can't really disagree with that because, again, between these comments now and what the Bears have done to do right by him, it is now time for him to go out there and deliver on why he was the #1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. But speaking of this upcoming season, it brings me to a comment from my man Shady Acacia. He says, they're making us wait week 1 when the season is that close, time slows down. And he's alluding to my previous video where I talked about the Bears facing off against the Minnesota Vikings week 1 of next season on Monday Night Football. Yeah, y'all, we got to wait until Monday night to watch the Bears play next season for the first time. Yeah, it is what it is. If you want to know more about that, check out that video right there.